Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody. Welcome to the webinar for Scouts for SDGs in the community. So this is supporting the youth program through the Better World framework. So today, hopefully within 2 hours or earlier, I will I will share to you together with CG. He will introduce himself later, and just a few announcements or housekeeping. One is if you can mute your microphone all the time, unless you are or you raise your question. When you have a question, please type your questions on the chat box. RJ will keep that questions for you until we will finish the first part. No, we will have two parts for this sharing, and we will have question and answer at the end of the first part and at the end of the second part. So this is for youth program developers or decision makers, or that people who can influence the development of youth program in your National Scout organization. So maybe we can underline that we will not really discuss the challenges in great detail. No? So but you can ask that and we can discuss that later, but not in this webinar. Yeah. So we will welcome a few friends here. Chris is here, and Mo. Mo is here from Egypt. I hope Cynthia will join us later. I haven't seen her come in, but maybe we can see him. May I also recognize our APR Scout committee member, regional committee member, Hiroshi Shimada-san. Welcome to the webinar. Okay, so we'll start now. With this Scouts for SDGs in the community. So to start with, I will give you a little background. So this is a timeline that started in 2004, no, and that was the time that the Scouts of the World Award was born, 2004. And then after that, the World Scout Environment Program was established. This was adopted as the Environmental Education of Scouting, no, in 2008. So that was a conference in Korea. No, we have the old panda badge before. But then it was revised, or it was replaced by the World Scout Environmental or Environment Program. So again, Messenger of Peace, 2011. And then the Sustainable Development Goals was signed into an agreement by a number of governments and countries in 2015 in Brazil, no? Sustainable Development Goals. This is replacing the MDGs before, the Millennium Development Goals. No? So with that, we have a number of initiatives, and we tried to bring them together under one umbrella, which we called the Better World Framework. No? So that's 2016. And then in 2017 in Baku, a World Scout Conference resolution was made encouraging World Scouting to act and contribute to achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. No? And then with that, because of that resolution, the Scouts for SDGs was born. And this is a mobilization of 50 million scouts, no? A year after. So after that, there was a workshop composed of representatives from the 6 WOSM regions, and they had a workshop to decide on the future of education. So later in this sharing, or in this workshop, or in this webinar, CG will explain to you the end result of this workshop, the future of education, which was held in 2020. And then Earth Tribe was born on the same year, and Earth Tribe is replacing, or has replaced, the World Scout Environment Program, or WSEP. And now we have a new document, Scouts for SDGs in the community. So 2021. So this webinar is largely, will talk about this document of Scouts for SDGs in the community. So, okay, so we will talk more of this Scout for SDGs. So let us go back and let us determine who are the stakeholders of World Scouting or Scouting. No? So in a corporation, a stakeholder is a member of groups without whose support the organization would cease to exist. No? So these are all important players or stakeholders. No? And the word stakeholders was defined in the first usage of the word in 1963. So we have been using that, stakeholders, in 1963. And later this was developed and championed by Edward Freeman in the 1980s. So the stakeholder can also be an individual or group of individuals that have a common interest or concern in scouting. So who are our main stakeholders? One is young people. They are the main stakeholders in scouting, or in World Scouting, no? And supported by WOSM structures. So this is World Scouting, the 6 regions, National Scout Organization or National Scout Association, provinces, subnational level, districts, scout groups, and etc. No, this is the institutional infrastructure of World Scouting. No? So the other one is, of course, the community members, because if you, or you will see later that the community, our community members has a vital role in achieving the mission of scouting. And of course, our partners is also a stakeholder, because we have a lot of partners that have we have a common mission. No? So why not work together so that both of us will achieve both our mission. No? So I'll give you CG for these slides. CG, take it away, please.
Right, thank you. Just a quick introduction. So I'm CG, or you can call me as Jing. I'm from the Singapore Scouts Association, Program Commissioner for the Better World Framework. I'm also serving as the WOSM Service Consultant for APR, and also serve in the Better World Framework unit under WOSM. So basically, as what Sid has mentioned, today we are trying to bring you a new structure of the Better World Framework. So there are going to be quite a bit of new stuff that we are going to be going through today. So should you have any questions like what Sid has mentioned, do put it into the chat group so that we can keep track of it. So let me just start off by introducing to you certain, I guess, terminologies, and just that we are clear because I think some of us in the region are still using a different terminology. So this is the so-called standardized terms that we are actually using now for the Better World Framework. So I think the first one that we probably need to get acquainted with is initiative. So as of now, there are eventually going to be 4 overarching initiatives, and each initiative covers a thematic area. Okay, so this one later on I'll explain in further detail, but this is just the difference between the initiative, and the next slide I'm going to show you is a challenge. So this is what I'm trying to differentiate for you now. So both an initiative and challenge, they would have some similar components like manuals or guidelines that they will tell you the objectives or the learning objective, etc. And of course, they will be supported by partners and potential funding. And each initiative of challenge also has their own monitoring systems, which of course is not only just things that can be monitored by both Scout Bureau or the APR office, but even by NSOs yourself. Okay, and then of course each initiative and challenge come with their own branding, so that in the event that you need to reproduce certain materials and stuff, you are actually able to do that on your own. Okay, so for initiative, if you look at the right side of the screen, you will see that there are actually 4 areas. So these are the 4 thematic areas that is now currently in the Better World Framework. So this is the evolved Better World Framework. It's sort of a little bit of restructure with new added elements. So if you look back at the timeline that Sid shared, Better World Framework started in 2016 as a result of the 3 main initiatives: Scout of the World, World Scout Environment Program, and Messengers of Peace. So now, because it has grown, it has developed, and it has evolved. So there is, along with the SDG, there is a need to actually expand it. So in this case-wise, this is where the 4 thematic areas comes in. So the first one is peace and community engagement. So that is the thematic theme. And then the initiative that is covering that theme is Messengers of Peace. Okay. So the next pillar is actually environment and sustainability. So the overarching initiative covering that is Earth Tribe. So as you can see, there is 2 more thematic areas that has no logo or program, etc. Those are the 2 new areas that WOSM is actually developing. So it's work in progress. Okay. So one is skills for life, and the other one is health and well-being. So this one I will be sharing a little bit more in a while. Get the next slide. Okay, so this is the challenges. Okay, so the challenges is the second terminology that I want to explain. So challenges is basically, I would say, like a subset of an initiative. Okay, so they likewise, they have a manual, and they even have, some of them even have action kits. They have challenges, but likewise they have the partners funding, they have the branding guidelines, they have a key performance index. So those are the same ones. So basically the only difference is the challenges has very specific instructions, or rather guidelines, to help you achieve. So these are challenges, are basically the badges, the programs that has the badges. But now we don't call it programs, we actually call it challenge. Okay, so just now, in case you wonder why C was talking about challenges, so this is what we are talking about when we are mentioning challenge now. Okay, so initiative is the overarching. So as of now is Messengers of Peace and Earth Tribe. So the ones that you see on the right side now, these are the challenges, the badges, that the badge program, that what we used to call, that are under the overarching thematic areas now. Okay, all right, so next slide please. So now I'm going to share with you a little bit more about how each pillar is the status of each pillar. So with environment and sustainability, you can see that Earth Tribe now, it has already been rolled out last year on World Environment Day. So it's been exactly 1 year and 15 days since it has been launched. So we are now in the process of getting more feedback about how the program is. So we are doing a little survey and review of how Earth Tribe is for most people. I think not everyone in our region has implemented them yet, but we are of course strongly encouraging you to implement. Should you have any questions, of course you can contact the regional office for support. Okay, and of course the manuals have already been out, so that is no problem. Okay, so next one, we will have the peace and community engagement, which is messengers of peace. Okay, so now we are actually undergoing a bit of alignment of the existing programs. Okay, so it's going to have a little bit of restructure here. It's not complete yet. As you can see, Earth Tribe is already a whole entire package. But for messengers of peace, we are trying to align everything so that all the challenges under messengers of peace will be contributing towards messengers of peace itself. So this one, there are some things that are still work in progress. Okay. Skills for life, and maybe I will also show the next one, health and well-being. So these two are the new programs, and these are the two new initiatives. There is yet to have a proper initiative name that's tagged to it. Whether is it what's the initiative is going to be is still undergoing some collaborations and arrangements. So these two are the ones that is going to be rolled out in due time, and probably in the next 1 or 2 years, it will slowly go out bit by bit. Manuals will be provided, the learning objectives, the strategies, the action plan will be eventually released. So this one, we can slowly take our time to go and understand this. So it will be rolled out in during future. Okay. All right. Next slide, please. Okay, so this part here is about implementing Better World Framework. I think in our region, most of us would have at least implemented some of the world initiative in our NSO, but not every NSO has implemented all the program. But this is definitely not an issue, because after all, what the Better World Framework does is to help to support and complement your youth program. Okay, so important consideration when you implement. So the National Youth Program, as I mentioned, should be the center of any implementation process, because the Better World Framework is actually to supplement or complement your youth program. It is not to replace it. So that's the main thing that we want to make sure that we get the message across. It's not a replacement, neither it's a competition. Okay, it is actually to help or supplement. And the Better World initiatives aligns with the NSO's personal progress scheme. So this is something that it's up to each NSO to try to align. So for example, I'll use the Singapore Scouts Association as an example. We actually have aligned our Better World framework initiatives to some of our national progress scheme. So it has become an alternative or an option to the progress scheme. So it doesn't compete. So whoever likes to do the original progress scheme, they can continue to do so. But if they would like to have a different challenge, or they have a specific interest, for example, in environment, they can take on the Better World initiatives. Okay. So I think this point I also mentioned. So it's a support. It's not compulsory to implement. It's encouraged, and because it uses SDG as a fundamental knowledge, so I think it is actually recommended, but not compulsory. NSOs can choose what initiative and challenges to implement. So if let's say, for example, if Bhutan were to think that Bhutan has very good environment, good environment to introduce environmental challenges. So I think for them, they could take on Earth Pride easily. So they can choose to implement that first before moving to, let's say, messages of peace. Okay, so it's up to NSO to do it, and NSOs can actually tailor the framework to respond to the needs to addressed by the SDGs. So if your this one I'll explain a little bit more in a while. So if let's say your community requires something, the needs that you see that is existing in your community, you want to address that, you can implement and tailor the initiative or the challenges to accommodate to that. Okay. So in fact, this is something, the last point here is something that we'll share with you in a while. So basically your national projects, campaigns, and initiative can actually have a place in the Better World framework. Okay. All right. So this is, I'm just going to go through this roadmap to give you a little bit of an idea of how and what you can actually do if you would like to implement your Better World framework, or how would you, or how could you identify to do it. Okay, so first of all, for you, if you want to implement, first of all, I think it is good to explore the issues of the SDGs in your own country. What is affecting your local communities? What is affecting your young people? And then after that, you focus on those issues that is more that is of prominence. Okay, so if you feel that there is environmental concern, or maybe your country has a lot of natural resources that you can tap on, so I think that is a good way to start, and especially if the young people are going to be interested in them. So once you identify the issues, look at your youth program. Are there anything that is linked, anything that has relevance, and then you try to match and integrate them together. So that's the start. Okay. So next, you can actually identify. Can I have the next slide, please? So when you identify, once you have acknowledged the issues that is in your country or in your community, so then identify the desired areas of intervention. Because if we were to say environment, it's a very huge, broad topic. What about the environment would you like to address? Is it, let's say, renewable energy, okay, or clean energy? If you like to look into that, then that's where you can start exploring what are the possible areas that you can work into. Okay, and then of course, if let's say is a potential idea to actually implement in the local community, that's definitely even more evidence that you should all the more emphasize on that particular issues that you have actually identified. Okay, and then also reevaluate the scope of scouting education in your NSO and the NSO's capacity. This is something that we often may overlook. We find that, oh, this program is very new, it's very exciting. We all jump on the bandwagon, but we may not necessarily realize that what are the possible, are there enough people to support this? Are there enough interested, like-minded people as you, like you, who can actually help to push this program? So I think the capacity of your NSO is something that you would like to make sure that you have a team that is ready to push it. Okay. So next, once you have identified, you will want to map out what is what's going to come next. Okay, so of course, the recognition badges and programs in your NSO, your national programs and initiatives contributing to the community development. So that is something that you might want to see how it can match. Okay, So it's not only just implementing this as a standalone. As we mentioned, Better World Framework initiatives and challenges exist to actually support NSOs and to complement NSOs. In fact, when Scouts of the World first started in 2006, it only applies to the senior section. So its purpose was also to help NSOs without the senior scout section in their NSOs to engage those scouts who have actually go beyond the age. So the purpose is to actually support and complement NSO's program. Okay, so then you also want to explore the gaps between the issues affecting the community. What are the actually needs of it, and then address the Better World Initiative challenges that is tackling your country. So that's why we always go back to the point about SDGs. If you can identify a SDG that is very prominent in your community, that is prominent, that is maybe a specialization or forte of your NSO, I think that's a very good point to start exploring on. Okay, and so with that, you are able to map out your pathways. And then next, you then choose which initiative and challenge that would complement best for the issues that you have actually identified in your community. So once again, let's say I go back to the environment one. So then now you know that I want to explore renewable energy source. So of course now there is the Scouts4SDGs solar, and that is one potential area that you say, okay, that's one I probably can do. I have the capacity to do it. I can apply for grants to implement it. So I know it's within my capacity of my NSO and our staffing to actually be able to implement this. So with this, you align with your own NSO's youth program learning objective. Keep in mind that each initiative and challenge has their own set of learning objectives in place. So I think it is always crucial to look back into your NSO's learning objective or your NSO's own mission, vision, etc., or your youth program's approach or direction. And then if you are able to match it, that's perfect. Okay. And then of course, lastly, that is where you are doing the matching, aligned and implement. So you come out with an action plan. If you need help to develop a more concrete plan for your NSO, you can actually submit a WOSM service request, and there will be regional consultants in our region that will be tagged to you to actually support you, to advise you, and to perhaps go through your proposal to see how you can actually implement the Better World framework in your NSO. Okay, so in fact, it is good. Sid is here, so of course you can reach out to the WOSM regional team to feedback on the proposed plan. Sid is not going to run away, so he will be around. And then once you are able to come up with a very strong plan, then of course you will have no issues to match integrate into your own progress scheme. And then once you have a good program ready, that is where you can start to engage your local leaders, your young people, and start forming your team to actually do up the program. The main thing is you also want to monitor and evaluate. So this is some things that we will talk at towards the end. You want to find out the impact, whether is this something that in the long run, after let's say you implement it for half a year or a year, you want to look back how much impact has this trickled down to the local community, or in fact the most fundamental is how much have your youth benefited from this initiative implemented. Okay, right. So that is basically how and why probably you would want to implement the Better World framework. Should you have any questions about the implementation part, by all means, put in your questions into the chat box. So now I'm going to talk a little bit more about each of the thematic area. So this is the part that is going to be a little bit new. Okay. Right. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay, so if you look at the Better World Framework, it's actually a portfolio of the four global initiatives. So if you look at the four teams, okay, so the four teams is environment and sustainability, peace and community engagement, health and well-being, skills for life. So these are the four overarching initiatives as of now. Okay, so can I have the next slide, please? So how does the Better World Framework works in a sense? Okay, so if you look at the diagram here, you look at the top left, there's the circle that is representing representative of the SDGs, Education for Sustainable Development. So the SDG informs the development of initiative and challenges that trickles down to the four thematic areas that comprises that basically that makes up Better World Framework, and Better World Framework in turn complements the youth program itself. Okay, so this is how actually the whole cycle works. And in fact, if you also recall, there was also a document about SDG and youth program that was also published quite a while back. So if you also see SDGs directly involve the youth program. So you can see this is a very holistic approach on how the whole SDG, Better World Framework, and youth program complements each other. Okay. So now coming to a little bit more of the details. So what you see here in each of the thematic areas are 5 sections under them. Okay, so these 5 sections are actually the parts that are defined under the each thematic area. Okay, so as you can see, Earthpride, we are pretty. I mean, those who are very familiar with Earthpride, you will find these 5 points very familiar. In fact, they would make up the 4 pathways in Earthpride. Okay, so you probably see them in different naming. Some of them are different naming, but basically this 5 sections, or rather these 5 components, 5 elements make up the 4 pathways in Earthpride. Okay, and then if you see peace and community engagement, so this is where if you look at it, messengers of peace now, because there is a very strong prominent pillar thematic area that is addressing environment. So you can see down that messengers of peace is starting to move away from the environmental elements because it's already taken care of by Earthpride. So that's something for you to take note of. Okay, so if you look at the 5 components there, peace building, diversity inclusion, heritage and culture, humanitarian action, and civics engagement. So you see that environment is not included inside there. So this is a small little note for everyone that environment now is actually covered under the Earthpride component. Okay, so that's the new alignment that I was mentioning at the start about messengers of peace. Then of course, skills for life and health and well-being. Those are the 5 elements under each thematic area. So those are the ones that we are, rather WOSM is still trying to engage partners and collaborators to actually develop challenges for those areas. Okay, so what are the challenges under each pillar? So if you can see from the image, okay, just a quick question. I think someone has already asked a question. Did anyone realize there is one challenge, or rather there's one program that is missing from here? If anyone can spot it, you can type it in the chat box to see how, maybe just a quick gauge how sharp some of you are. It looks like there's quite a few people who have noticed it. So if you notice, we have been talking about Scouts of the World right from the start. In fact, it is the very first world program that was launched in 2005, I believe. Okay, so where has SWA gone to? It has not gone anywhere. It is actually still sort of under Better World Framework. But if you look at the Scout of the World Award, those who are familiar with it, the name itself already tells you that it's different. It's called the Scouts of the World Award. So in fact, it is in fact an international recognized award itself. So it's not an initiative, it's not a challenge. So it's not what even we call last time as programs. It is actually an award. So this is why it has been taken out and not subcategorized. In fact, Scouts of the World encompass every single SDG and in fact all the 4 pillars here. So that's why it is not subsumed under any of the specific 4 thematic areas. So that's something for you to take note. It has not disappeared. It is still around. So Scouts of the World is an award itself. Okay, so just to make sure that we get that across. Right. So as you can see, we have the Earth Tribe challenges already there. Those will be very familiar. And then of course you have the Messengers of Peace. So something to note, because Scouts of the World Award actually has a component which is in the past, which is related to it, which is called Patrimonito, which is the second icon you see at the middle of the Messengers of Peace thematic area. So Patrimonito is a subset of Scouts of the World Award. But if you look at it, Patrimonito itself is about culture and heritage. This is why that badge, or rather that challenge, is subsumed under Messengers of Peace. Okay, and not it is still tagged to Scouts of the World. The criteria still remains, but it is recognized under Messengers of Peace. So that's something for you to take note of. Then of course, skills for life, health and well-being are still under development. Okay. So is that the only challenges that we are able to do? The answer is actually no. So can I have the next slide, please? So we are in fact encouraging NSO to actually implement their own challenge. So this is something new. I would consider it to be a little bit more of a ground up approach in a sense. So it's not, let's say Earth Tribe is not the only 3 challenge that is being handed down from WASM side with manuals and guidelines that will only be able to complete in order to get Earth Tribe. We are actually encouraging NSOs with very strong campaigns, programs, challenges, initiatives that you already have in your NSO. And with these strong programs that you have, you can actually try to get it recognized as one of the challenges to complete either the Earth Tribe or Messengers of Peace pillar. Of course, in due time, once the skills for life and health and well-being is more concretized and there is a proper learning objective set out, then of course, if you have any other initiative that will align with that 2 thematic areas, it applies also. So how do we actually go about doing this? So this is actually a new information. So will be good for those who are attending the webinar to take note of this. So let's say if, for example, I have, okay, let's say under Earth Tribe, I have a very good campaign in my NSO, and it's, let's say, to address water conservation. So this campaign batch has been going around for the longest of time, it has been going on and there's a lot of people taking it, but it is a national based campaign. So it's within my NSO. So, but I find that it aligns with the Healthy Planet pathway for Earth Tribe because it's water conservation, right? So can I?
So science quiz, geoquiz, that's the whole part of problem.
How can I go about getting this campaign recognized as one of the challenges for Earth Tribe? So the way how to do it is we can contact our dear Mr. Sid Castillo. So he is the educational methods director for our region. And so what you can do is, first of all, before you even drop him an email or contact him, first of all, look at the Earth Tribe. For example, if I were to use the water conservation as a gauge, look at Earth Tribe's learning objective. Look back into the manual, look at Earth Tribe's learning objective. How does your current campaign program, how are the learning objectives aligned with Earth Tribe? Are they matching? If maybe, let's say maybe I'm missing a component in the learning objective. Okay, let's say, because as of now, the Earth Tribe requires you to do, let's say, to discover, and then after that to do something, and then you have to do a project. So for example, if your campaign batch currently doesn't have a project phase, so that's something you have to work on. So basically, you need to make sure that what you have aligns with the overall arcing learning objective of that thematic area. So once you know what you're lacking and you need perhaps some consultation, you can approach Sid Castillo to say, hi, I have this plan. I want to use my national organization's campaign as a challenge for the Earth Tribe pathway. But I know I'm missing the project phase component. Could you advise me? So that is when then Sid will be able to sit down with you to discuss through and look through your proposals and your plan to give you advice. And then, of course, eventually, if you are able to have a very good proposal, then, and you are confident, once again, recall back to the implementation process. Do you have the resources? Do you have the capacity? Do you have the ability to implement it? If you have, and the proposals alignment of your campaign batch now aligns with the thematic area, you can go ahead and do it. So as long as Sid Castillo is aware that you are doing it, your NSO can actually implement it. Should you need even more assistance, so that is where the WOSM services will come into play. So Sid will then probably advise you, okay, perhaps you can file up for a service request, and then we will tag one WOSM consultant to you and advise you on how you can develop your curriculum. Okay, so I hope this is something that you can take away, but in particular about this, it is not only just challenges that WOSM has currently. There is a potential for you to develop your own NSOs, campaigns, initiatives, challenges, or programs into a challenge that is meant for a thematic area. So that's for you to think of. Okay. All right. So now I will move into my last section before we take a break for the first part. So of course, after implementing all the things that we want to implement, like I said, after 6 months or even after a year, you want to be able to comprehend what is the impact. Okay, so what do we mean by impact? So there are impacts on many different levels, but I think the most fundamental one would be at the personal level. As you can see, the mission of scouting is there. So it says to contribute to the education of young people, to build a better world where people are self-fulfilled as individuals and play a constructive role in society. The idea of Better World Framework is to actually to ensure that our scouts become active global citizens. Okay, I think by achieving that, and that would be at the personal level for each individual scout, with that, you definitely will get the impact at the institutional level. And of course, you definitely get impact from the community level. So the most fundamental, I would say, the building blocks is our people itself. So if you foresee that the Better World Framework initiative and challenges has the potential to grow the capacity of your young people in your NSO, then you know that this is something worthwhile that you can try to implement it in your NSO. So take it off from the personal level, Once you're at the personal level, I'm pretty sure the institutional level impacts and the community level impact will come along as bonus. It's basically part of the journey. So how can we visualize these impacts? So of course we have the obviously we have the MOP service hour site, and then you also have the sdg.scout.org site. You actually can go to the website to explore. So if you would like to, you can find look up that link. You can explore, and there are actually stories that has been posted. So best practices from around the world, information, projects that people have done. So this is a good way to get inspired on how we can do it. And then you also can visualize what are the impacts that other people have. Who knows? You might even find that a possible collaboration with the NSO that has been doing those projects. And then that is where you can further expand the impact that is being done, not only to the existing project from the NSO, but you also can benefit your own NSO. Okay. Other than that, you also would like to make sure that, can I have the next slide, please? So when we do projects in the community, you also want to look at the quality projects, not just projects that is one-off or perhaps to do for the sake of doing. You would want to look at the needs analysis. So for those who are interested, you can Google needs analysis to find out more about what I'm mentioning. So basically is to analyze the needs of your community and then addressing it very specifically. So it becomes a more meaningful engagement and a more significant experience for the young people themselves. Because first of all, you know that this is an existing problem, it's a significant problem that is in my community. So I'm actually playing my part as an active citizen to help the community. So this is why it is very important to look at the needs, not to say, oh, I want to do this, and then I will go and do it. That is more of a want. So needs analysis looks at the needs of the community. Okay, and of course you want to involve community members, like maybe the let's say if you want to work in the village, you want to involve the village chief, you want to involve NGOs or VWOs that are already existing in the community, and then you want to work with them. And then the purpose of working with people in the community, as what Sid has mentioned about stakeholders, it is that it will probably ensure that it will be a sustainable solution, not just one-off, you go there and do it, and then after that, whatever you have done, it becomes obsolete or becomes a white elephant that is just there and not doing any good to the community. You want to make sure that it is a sustainable project, sustainable solution. That's how an impactful project can be in a community. Okay? And of course, then, so what indicates, success or what indicates good impact? You want to look at how the projects aligns with the SDG agenda. That will be a good measurement. And I'm pretty sure that is not going to be difficult to do it, because with 17 SDGs, it is almost impossible not to align a project with any of the SDGs. Okay? And then, of course, I mentioned about development of the competency for the sustainable development. It changes the mindset of young people when they are involved in certain SDGs. They gain different or new perspective, and which is why it contributes to the positive change in the behavior of young people. Okay, and of course, I will say that if you look at it, the first three elements are the most important indicators. The service hours and the local actions, the number of service hours and local action, those are the bonus. You want to do something meaningful that matches your service hours and the quality of the project. For example, if I were to say, oh, I would like to paint a mural in a school, you spend 8 hours painting a mural, but could that 8 hours be better used? Would a mural benefit a school, or perhaps the 8 hours of engaging the children in the community for education purpose would that be better time spent? So this is where you match the service hours with the local actions. Okay, and then of course, number of NSOs involved in initiative and challenge. The more NSOs in the Asia Pacific region that takes this up, it shows that we are helping each other. We are all benefiting from the initiative and challenge itself. And then with that, there will be partnership and alliance at the NSO, regional, or even the global level. I think as of now, we are even having already collaborations between NSO. So, for example, I've gone in the past to help Thailand with some of their SWA projects before and to run some workshops. And I've also invited other NSOs observers to actually observe our workshop for Scouts of the World Award. So this is where partnerships, ideas are exchanged. You can, in fact, the host can even learn more, and of course, eventually the impact on society. Okay, so with that, that concludes the first part in terms of the content of the Better World Framework. So now we have some time. So before we go for a break, let's look at some of the questions that has been mentioned. Okay, so let me just go through. All right, so I think the first one is from Shama from Fiji. Is there a registration process which NSO needs to do in order to start the Earth Tribe program? There is, I would say, there are different approach. So if you are going small scale and you would like to just implement the Earth Tribe as a challenges, you can just go ahead and do it, especially if you do not require to, I would say, make your own resources. So for example, if you are going to buy the Earth Tribe badges from the Scout shop, then there is no need for you to manufacture your own badges. But should you want to be a bit more independent and you would like to make your own badges or resources, then you will need to approach the World Scout Bureau to sign a commercial agreement. Okay, there are agreements, basically commercial and non-commercial agreement. So if, for example, my NSO, the Singapore Scouts Association, we actually signed a non-commercial agreement for the Earth Tribe. So which means that we have the permission for World Scout Bureau to produce our own Earth Tribe badges and challenge badges. So they will give us the guidelines and all the branding identity guidelines for the badges, and then we can make it on our own. So that is why we signed the non-commercial agreement. There are also NSO who may sign the commercial agreement that is actually for them to say that, okay, I want to make use of the Earth Tribe, but I want to make products that merchandise that I want to sell at my NSO. Perhaps is to do fundraising. But once you are making a profit out of the merchandise, this is where the commercial agreements would need to come in. Okay, so this is something to highlight. So should you not need any permission or to produce anything of your own, and you're buying all the badges and everything off from the Scout shop, then I don't think there is a need to register per se. You can implement. If you would like to, maybe just drop the APR regional support office to let them know to say, hey, I'm going to start this. Is there anything I should take note of? Perhaps that will be good enough. But if you want to go into producing your own things, or you want to produce merchandise for profit, then you will need to sign the commercial or non-commercial agreement. So I hope that would answer Shama's question. Yas mentioned about SWA, so I hope that also has answered your question from just now what I mentioned. Okay. Okay. Devraj mentioned SWA. The name is only the award. We're implementing the youth program. Young people learn the skills and work. It doesn't represent the award. It's a recognition. All right, so this is the part because in fact, the reason why we don't include SWA under any of the specific four thematic areas is because it encompasses all the areas. So it doesn't align with that in the sense. And because if you see how Earth Tribe works, if you there are three challenges under Earth Tribe: Scouts Go Solar, Champions for Nature, Titanium Plastic. So how do you get Earth Tribe as of now? You complete either one of the three challenges, so SGS, CFN, or TTP. If you complete any one of these three, you actually get Earth Tribe as a recognition. Okay, so the thing is, if you were to do SWA, it encompasses all the specific regions. So it doesn't entail into a very specific thematic area. So if you look at it, so this is how the thematic areas is going to work. Following, I would say Earth Tribe will be the best example to see how it is. So if you look at Messengers of Peace, eventually it will align towards that direction. So he for she, Patrimonito, Dialogue for Peace, this programs are going to slowly be tweaked and reviewed to actually fit under the umbrella of the Messengers of Peace. So eventually Messengers of Peace is going to become a recognition, not a badge, or rather a challenge by itself. So this is under review. Okay, so it's going to slowly take time to do it. And this is why the SWA doesn't fall under any specific thematic areas, and hence it's an overarching. So it doesn't fall under. I hope that answers the question. Okay. If NSO from Rio, if NSO establish new initiative and challenges, could it be part of Scouts4SDG? Yes, of course. You know, in fact, I think I would strongly encourage that every project or initiative that you do, not just do it, but try to look through the 17 SDG. What are the SDG that complements what you're doing? Or rather, in fact, what SDG are you addressing when you are doing your initiative and challenges? So I think that will also help you gain a better perspective of how which thematic area it probably can fall under. In fact, if let's say if it's something like the scale of SWA, then of course it can fall under any category. So it depends on how your NSO would then fine-tune the guidelines to actually fit into the thematic themes. Okay. Are there steps to follow so that the NSO challenge can be globally recognized? Okay. For NSO challenges, this is something that is for each NSO to propose. It is not something that will be implemented globally. So that one, no one has the authority or whatever to push it up to at a global level. But this is where the impact, where your stories, your best practices is always good to share them, because once you share these best practices and etc., this is where your own NSO challenge can be well, I mean, people will know about it and publicize about it. And should any other NSOs find that, hey, your NSO challenge is interesting and I think I can replicate it in my own country, by all means, share the resources with the NSO who is interested. So I don't think there is an authority or there's a process to get it globally recognized. The main idea behind the NSO challenge is to help the NSOs to complement their own existing campaigns, projects, and initiatives to match and to complement the Better World Framework thematic areas. So if you want to go bigger than that, I think, you do your sharing, you publicize your projects so that if other NSOs pick up, they are interested, please do share with them how you do it, and who knows, it might become their own NSO challenge eventually. Okay. From Alex, can I say if some scouts complete Earth Trek with certain hours, they can also? Yes, in fact, this is why SWA is overarching. Because if you were to do Earth Trek, for example, okay, very simple. I will use the Singapore Scouts Association. We have a project called Project Orion. That's a sea turtle project. It has been going on for 10 years. And in fact, with that project, we actually go, well, we can't do it now, but we used to travel to Malaysia for 14 days and we do a service project in a community in Malaysia itself. So of course, we will hit the 80 hours for SWA very easily. And so that being an Earth Trek potential project, it also satisfies the criteria for SWA. In fact, this is how we would strongly recommend Better World Framework be integrated in your national, your NSO's youth program. Don't let it just only target one area, but if you can kill two birds with one stone, why not? So if your environment project meets the criteria for SWA and your SWA also has no issue in meeting the criteria for, let's say, patrimonito, you can even get you can satisfy 3 criteria in one go. So it is possible. It just needs your NSO to look at how you can align and integrate it into your own programs. Okay. From Rio, how to line up SWA and the SDG initiative. I think this one is very easy because I think, as I mentioned, in fact, every single project, event, initiative, or program that we do, they are bound to align or be related to SDGs somehow. It's just how are you able to identify. In fact, if you look at SDG 17, for the partnerships, this partnership SDG literally would almost exist in any project that you involve with a community partner or even a company they're working with, or even with NGOs, VWOs. That is one initiative already almost certain that you can align with. So I think there is no shortage of opportunities to align the SDG. Okay. Badges of challenges can be produced by NSO. It can, like I said, you will probably need to sign the agreements with the World Scout Bureau. Okay. I'll try to go through a bit faster because I think there's quite a lot of questions. Are there guidelines available for leaders to implement this program? Yes, all the manuals are actually can be found on the website. So you can Google, you can go and search for the Better World Framework service under the Scout.org. You will be able to find the different Better World services. Under the Better World service, you will find all the initiative and challenges, and they will bring you to the individual page for all the programs. So you definitely can find all the guides there. Okay. Okay, I think for the I think Antoine actually mentioned about, can we share the PowerPoint presentation? I think this is recorded. So RJ or Sid, will we be able to share with them?
Yes, CG. We can share, but just to note to everybody also, the one being shared here can be can be found in the document of Scouts4SDGs in the community. So if you read through the document, whatever CG is saying, it's all there.
Okay, thank you. See. Okay, last 2 questions. How to build a movement support from local government? Please share across. Okay, I think this one, I don't think we are able to really answer that much, because I think it really depends on how your NSO or your country works in that way. the support wise, I think it really depends on the connections that you have. But I will say that maybe start small if you can find partners that are international partners. For example, let's say if you want to work on Earth Tribe, you can see whether you have WWF in your NSO, in your country, and then you start from the VWOs and the NSOs. Chris, are you able to answer this? You have a solution?
Well, I was just going to say on the partnerships bit. Obviously, WASM has its partnership team that can generally lead to giving advice in building partnerships and some of those local strategies. So it's worth tapping into that partnership team if they want it.
Okay, Ken, thank you.
Yeah. CG, with this also questions of how to build a movement support in the local government. Look at the strategies or the program of the government, and I am sure, especially in Bangladesh, I am sure that there is a legislation already existing regarding environment, and this is what I learned from Cedric. No, this is the whole of nation or whole of government approach, that Scouting is involved in nation building. No? You are engaged in their program, and you are contributing to also you are contributing to the achievement of the SDG in Bangladesh. In fact, I'm not sure if he is still the president, but he is now the minister in charge of the SDGs in Bangladesh, the president of Bangladesh Scouts. So you have a big opportunity of working together, and this is a big opportunity for Scouts and government and nation building, and active global citizens to work together hand in hand. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, C. So I hope that addressed that question. I think the last one is more of a comment from Mo. So I completely agree if you focus on the workshops and training within NSO for capacity building, because of I suppose that's confusion among leaders about the link between SDG, Better World Framework, and their youth program. I think this is something that is because if I'm not wrong, if I get your questions correctly, there are, because the world programs, or rather now it's called the initiative and challenges, they are all released at different time over the past 10 plus years. And whenever one is released, if an NSO were to pick it up, someone is in charge, and then the next one comes, another person is in charge. So there is a possibility that within certain NSO, you would have implement all the Better World Framework, but then it's all managed by different people, but it's all under the same framework. So you probably have a bit of confusion. It's like, oh, why is this not being able to complement this? Why is it not being integrated? So I think this is something that is worthwhile to discuss within your NSO to see, can you find the different stakeholders of each program that is different stakeholders overseeing each of the initiative or challenge to come together and work out a method or approach that will align with your national youth program. So another example, let's say we would bring back to the Singapore Scouts Association. I guess we are fortunate that in the past, we also did have different coordinators for the three world initiatives, the Scout of the World, World Scout Environment Program, and Messengers of Peace. But then when the Better World Framework came and was pushed out by WASM, it was all merged under one person's charge. So I've been overseeing that that branch, and so with that, I have a team of about 17 to 18 people who are overseeing each of the small initiatives and challenges. So that is how our NSO put all the Better World Framework under one person's charge, and then the whole team groups of people working on the same. So for us, it's fortunate because then our documents are all aligned and it complements and everything looks very synchronized and everything. So it does take effort, but it's not impossible. And you're right about the capacity building. Once you are able to build that capacity within the NSO to sort this out, I think it will be much more smooth sailing. So I think with that, we have addressed the questions. So for now, let's take a quick 5 minutes break.
Okay, we start again with our sharing, and this time we will talk about youth program and the Better World framework. So with this, yeah, I will try to you if you are very familiar with the youth program, the World Scout Youth Program policy, in page 17 to 18. You will see there the 7 key principles of youth program. No? So one is having young people at its center. No? So this is like watching a Bollywood movie. No? The main actor here are young people, and all the adults in scouting are supporting actor and actresses, and we are there only to support these heroines or heroes, or actors and main actors and actresses, no, having young people at its center. So this is about education. This is what I was always trying to share to people in scouting, because scouting is seen as a recreational movement as opposed to an educational one. But in reality, scouting is an educational movement, particularly non-formal education. No? And we are here to develop, I think this is mentioned by CJ time and again, that we are here to develop active global citizen. No? This is the third principle for youth program. And locally adapted, but globally united. No? So our actions, and sometimes during the presentation of the Tide Turners Plastic Challenge, this is one of the competencies also being taught, that the pollution locally has one way or the other, directly or indirectly, has an impact somewhere else. No? So we need to adapt our youth program locally so that it's globally united. The fifth one is to be updated and relevant. So if you look at, again, the World Scout Youth Program policy, it will say there that National Scout organizations has to review its program between 3 to 5 years. No? So it should be so that it's up to date and so that it's relevant. No? So up to date meaning the children and young people 10 years ago is different from the children and young people today. No? So that explains that we need to keep on reviewing our youth program should be up to date. So relevant meaning it answers to the needs and aspirations of today's young people, not yesterday, not my time, 60s, 70s. No? So it should be relevant for children and young people today. Okay, so be open to all. I don't think I have to explain that. Where am I? And then lastly is be attractive, challenging, and meaningful. I think this is what again CG is trying to convey the message that Our youth program should be age appropriate so that it's attractive and challenging. Because if activities are not challenging, uh, people will just young people will just leave the organization. Okay, so as a review, um, we look at the youth program definition. CG, can you mute your mic? I'm having a feedback from here. Yeah, thanks. Okay, um, so youth program is defined as the totality of the learning opportunities from which young people can benefit. No? So there are two keywords here. One is totality. That means everything in everything that young children and young people do in scouting are learning opportunities. No? Whether it's not tying, whether it's when you whistle and we fall in line, whether we make flags, whether we as simple as being assigned as the assistant patrol leader or the grab master. These are all learning opportunities, no? And it gives back. It's a learning opportunity that gives back to young people. So this is our what. So these learning opportunities are created to achieve the purpose of scouting. No, have you ever asked yourself, to whom do you wake up for every morning? No? To whom do you wake up every morning? In scouting, the question is for young people, and all these learning opportunities are created to achieve the purpose of scouting or the mission of scouting. This is the why, no? The scouting's why. This is why we do it. And then the last is this is the only way we do in scouting is the scout method. No? This is how we do it in scouting, and this is our how. So imagine it is this camp chair. There's three legs, which is the what, the how, and the why. No? So three legs. And I would like to share very interesting. I learned from my colleague, Mr. Tian, if you know him, is these numbers. No, these are important numbers. 1368. Remember these numbers. 1368, because this is the summary of the youth program. So CG was saying, he presented you briefly the mission of scouting. No, this is the purpose of scouting. And to look at the purpose of scouting, I will not read this slide, but if you deconstruct this and you remember the slide that says impact of personal, institutional, and community. No? So for personal, we want individuals to be autonomous, supportive, responsible, and committed. There was an addition of culturally sensitive, no? Culturally sensitive. So this is the impact to the individuals. Impact on institution is this line of helping build a better world. As she just said, if you have a better people, you have a better National Scout organization, and we are together. No, we are helping build a better world together. And then lastly, the impact of the community is the constructive role. No, a constructive role in society. Society here means either it's local, national, or international community. No? So this is the deconstruction of the mission of scouting. Okay, so consistent to the camp chair that that you have seen, I would like to point out that um, we have three principles of scouting, no? Duty to God, duty to others, and duty to self. That's why we make the scout sign, no? So because that's duty to God, duty to self, and duty to others, no? And um, what we're saying that the in the key principles of scouting is young people is at the center, which is now in your screen, and this is now the definition of youth program. No? So our why is the purpose, which is the mission of scouting. Our what is the learning opportunities, all our activities, all our learning opportunities, no? And how we do it is the scout method. No? Yeah. So there are 6 areas of personal growth. No? So that's why we are, if you look at the purpose of scouting, the approach of scouting is always holistic, no? To develop young people their full potential, no? That keyword full is in the areas of spices, social, physical, intellectual, character, emotional, and spiritual, no? Spices. So full development of the full potential of young people. And of course, this is our how. The Scout method, which has 8 elements: promise and law, adherence to promise and law, learning by doing, personal progression or the progressive scheme, team system, some NSS call it patrol system, adult support, no? So that adult support never leaves, the role of the adult never leaves the scouting. Symbolic framework, we use a lot of symbols in scouting, nature or the outdoors, and community involvement. That's why during the first slides that we are saying community members are our stakeholders. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, so this is your 1368. Scouting has 1 mission, okay, 3 principles of scouting: duty to God, duty to others, and duty to self. 6 areas of development: social, physical, intellectual, character, emotional, and spiritual. Of course, 8 is the 8 elements of the Scout method. So this is the summary of your youth program, no? 1368. Going back to that first slide of who our stakeholder are, no, is young people. You can see here, community members and partners. No, so in the middle is scouting or the youth program, and within that youth program is the Better World framework. This is what CG is saying, that the youth program or the Better World framework is not created to compete, but to help to help youth program to make it colorful if you are looking for some ideas to implement in your National Scout organization. Yeah. Okay. So youth program and the Scouts4SDGs mobilization. So this is your 17 sustainable development goals, or the Agenda 2030. And behind, if you read the sustainable development goals or the targets of each of the 17, a lot of these targets are towards the benefit of young people, no? And that is why the SDGs also is targeted to develop for young people to develop sustainable habits. No? If you have always hear that question of uh, education for sustainable development, no? That education for sustainable development is really to develop the 8 key competencies for young people to have sustainable habits. Okay, so Scouts for SDG provides resources to align and enrich the program. So, and guiding principles and program to implement community actions. So we have actually 3 documents, which I will try to paste it on the chat box. If this will work, I need to send it to everybody. Okay, it works. So this is 3 documents. One is the very first one, which is called Scouts for SDGs. This is explaining the unprecedented mobilization of 50 million young people, no? To contribute in achieving Agenda 2023 or the Sustainable Development Goals. No? So this is a reference resource that explains how Scouting and the SDGs are connected and how Scouts for SDG will work. No? So yeah. The second document is called Guidelines for Aligning a Youth Program with Education for Sustainable Development Goals. Okay, so that is a UN term, United Nations term, saying education for sustainable development. This is what I'm saying, that UNESCO is saying that in order for young people to have sustainable habits, they need to have these 8 key competencies. And that is explained in the document, Education for Sustainable Development. And this document, Guidelines for Aligning Your Youth Program, is simply explaining how your youth program can contribute or can align to the achievement of the 8 key competencies, for young people to develop. Okay, the last document, which is now the object of this presentation, is the Scouts for SDGs in the community. No? So this is an updated Better World framework as a portfolio of the world initiatives categorized in thematic areas of education. So I think CG is explaining 4 initiatives now, and these are also the 4 thematic areas of education. Okay, so this is the theory of change of the Scouts for SDG. So this is a technical term that I need to explain. No? The change here, meaning the change here is what the organization hopes to make in the world. This is the what change, and the theory is how this change will happen, no? Or how the organization propose this. So this theory of change is an articulation of how and why a certain intervention will lead to change. So World Scouting proposes that our theory of change is to inspire, enable, and deliver. So first, we will inspire people to join the bandwagon. No? Come with us, join us, and become active global citizens, no? And explore and advocate for sustainable development. And because they have joined, we need to enable them. We need to empower them with tools, with information, with training, with education, and this is done through the National Scout Organization, no? And to offer quality non-formal education experiences to 50 million. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, RJ. RJ has sent you that document in the chat box. You can always download that one. Okay. And then of course, young people will deliver because they have already that competencies. Young people are able to deliver to create local action that creates a better world. Yeah. So this in this stage, when young people deliver actions, local actions connected to the SDGs, all of this, the initiatives, the challenges, the projects, these are all learning opportunities for young people. And if you go back to what CG has presented and what's the definition of youth program is the totality of the learning opportunities of young people in scouting. No, so that is how the Scouts for SDGs, the Better World Framework, is connected to our youth program. No? So this is again, this is I think the last slide. So you will see here, this is our partners around the SDGs. Remember that SDG 17 is partnerships. No? So he for she is, the partner is UN Women. WWF, this is our partner for the Champions of Nature challenge under the Earth Tribe. Kaisid is our partner with Dialogue for Peace, UNESCO. Particularly the Heritage Unit is for Patrimonito. Of course, the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts are partners for the Yunga badges. Greenpeace in South Africa is Go Solar. UN Environment is the Tide Turners Plastic Challenge, and Al-Wahid Philanthropies is a generous funding organization that works with scouting and believes in scouting to achieve to contribute in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs. With this, so this is our initiatives. I'm sorry, the initiatives and challenges, because I see the messenger of peace here, and this is the whole Better World framework. As you can see, Yasser, the Scouts of the World Award is still there. Yeah. Okay. With this is the second part. We will, if you have questions, you can type the questions on the chat box, and we will, CJ and I will try to address them. Yasser says, I thought you're hiding Scouts of the World Award for me. Yeah. 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 Okay. So any question? Or CG, do you have any additions if you have?
Maybe, well, hopefully if someone else is going to come up with questions, maybe I think overall for this evolve Better World framework, we gotta give ourselves some time, also gotta give the whole framework some time, because it's really new content that is really building up, and the purpose is really for the young people, to give them more opportunities and learning pathways to actually gain more insight into really all the different SDGs that we have. Because if you look at it, I think someone mentioned earlier about skills for life and health and well-being. These are really two new areas that we have not really explored. And I think it's a very good head start to even explore the possibility of expanding into those areas. So I think that's a good start for us. So let's just give ourselves some time to adapt to the new Evolve framework. If there's any questions, of course, by all means, you can approach us and ask. Yeah. Sid, I think there's a question. You able to answer that?
Mahin has a question. So we have to take a mission up to 2030 SDG benchmark. As I said, no, when we engage in any of the developmental strategies or projects of the government of the SDG, we scouting is seen in the limelight, no, and that makes us relevant because scouting contributes to nation building. No? That makes us that puts our position in a very favorable favorable position. That's one. Two is just remember that what the former UN Secretary General said. No, there is no plan B because there is no planet B. So this 2030 agenda is everybody's business, individuals, corporations, governments. No, because if we will not chip in, if we will not cooperate, there is no place to live. So it is really it is a necessity for us to do something, and we are blessed because we have scouting as a structure, and we have people that potentially can change the world. No? So the quick answer is yes. We need to take our mission. We need to own this agenda as our mission also. Clarification. Sid mentioned about 8 key competencies for education. Do we have like action kits or manual how to operationalize it with the initiatives and challenges? So I'll try to answer the question of Yasser. You don't have really to do that because the challenge is already inbuilt. The learning objectives for the education for sustainable development is developed based on the competencies. If I'm right, CG.
Yes, I will agree with that too.
Yeah. So if you look at the Tide Turner's plastic challenge, the competencies there for 3 age ranges, that is coming from the UN document or that is based from the UN document, Education for Sustainable Development. Yeah, I hope I answer your question. Yes. Okay. Next question. I know where you're coming from. Okay, thank you for that comment. Yes, because someone might ask us to write competency because RJ and I are taking master. Okay. Yes. Yeah. So is it a webinar or what is the other one? Kapihan or webinar? Yeah. Or maybe it's a conference, no? No? Okay. So since there's no more question, if there's none, okay, how well is the program reaching to the scouts and what ways it can be implemented? Okay, if you are talking about the challenges, Um, Again, one of the more aggressive challenge is the Tide Turners Plastic Challenge. And we will implement this, or we will roll it out in Fiji sometime in June or July, I think. But then, you know, as CG is saying few minutes ago, that this will take time. No, the structure is a very new initiative, and this will take time. Yeah. So the implementation really is, if you look at the documents that the documents that RJ has uploaded in this chat box, it really needs the National Scout Organization needs to digest these documents for implementation in your locality, in your local reality.
Sid, maybe I can add on.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that is actually the purpose of this webinar itself. So in fact, this webinar is not only replicated in only in our region. It's in fact the Better World Framework Unit actually has it done in almost all the regions. So all the regions will actually have a very similar sessions like this to actually put out the information of this evolved Better World Framework and all the necessary linkages and everything. The main purpose why we are engaging you people who are probably people who are involved in the youth program, or you are involved in Better World Framework in your own NSOs, is to really give you the insight of this, to give you that small bit of motivation or head start to figure out, or to at least know that, there is this things and these things are ongoing, and it's not really that difficult. It's up to us to actually explore how we can get it done. So it's, remember, it's about having your own capacity and identifying what your NSO wants to do. So I think with that identified, then it will be much easier to implement. Even if it's just one program or one initiative or one challenge, it is good enough. It's a good start. Once you see the benefits, I think eventually you can pick it up. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Ainal Sharma says, I believe this should now be part of all Scout training so that others can know and share accordingly. If you need help in rolling out these initiatives in Fiji, we will be glad to help you in developing a webinar like this, no? So that we can gather leaders from Fiji and re-echo the same thing. If Chief says yes to this, if Johnny says yes to this, then we're all good. No, we are here. CG, Mo, and Chris, and everybody here is willing to help. Okay. So any with that, before we end the session, any last words, CG?
No, I think I'm good. I mean, the main thing is really think of what would benefit your young people the best, and then I think work from there. Keep in mind that it is for the young people that we are working it for, but we are doing it for. Yeah.
So with that, I would like to thank everybody who has attended. We are close to 50 here in this webinar. It's Sunday today, and and I want to greet everybody who is a father. Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day. And even if it's a Sunday, you are here. you have invested your time to listen to us, and we are very grateful from the Asia Pacific. Thank you very much. Terima kasih banyak.
Ya, sama-sama.
Yeah, and even Marie, I think Marie is here. Cedric, our program chairman, also is here. So thank you for joining us. My good friend, the program commissioner of Malaysia, is also here. Haji Zul is here. So
Yes,
thank you for
Thank you.
thank you for everybody. I would also like to thank RJ. RJ is here also supporting us. It's a Sunday, but when duty calls, everybody's here. So thank you very much. If you have further questions, you can leave a message through Facebook or through or email seed@scout.org. Yeah. Our chairman for communications is here. Yorimasa Matsudaira is also here. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, brother Sid.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ajay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Program subcommittee members, thank you.
It's a very, very interesting session.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Domo,
brother.
domo arigatou gozaimasu.
Domo arigato.
Yeah. Okay. So we will close the
Thank you.
Yeah, chisto male. So we will close the meeting room in few minutes. But again, thank you. And as CG has typed in his chat box, we hope you all gained something from the session. And if sincerely, if you want to re-echo the same session, yeah, if you want to re-echo the same session, we will be glad to help. Just send us a request and we will be glad to help.
It's not closed yet, right?
No.
No, not yet.
Oh.
But bye-bye.
Happy
don't close
birthday,
it
Burns.
because okay, bye.
Happy birthday, Burns.
Bye, Minhin.
Special for Burns. Today his birthday.
Tinji, thank you, Ren.
Birthday.
Happy birthday.
What's Burns? Burns,
Okay,
happy
happy
birthday
birthday
to you. He's close.
Thank you, brother.
Wish you
Happy
all the
birthday,
best.
Sir Burns.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
you,
everyone.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone. Have a good afternoon, good evening, and good night.